Alright, welcome to CULINOLOGY 101, week 12. So last week we spoke about the muscle. So what is the muscle and how it works. Okay, so this week we're going to talk about how muscle is converted to meat. Okay, so I have briefly talked about what happens during muscle to meat during the muscle contractions. Alright, especially the term called rigor mortis. So I have already explained that. So this week I'm going to add on to that, but before I go into the meats, the type of meat, I'm going to talk about the whole process of conversion from muscle to meat. So if you look at this is actually the slaughtering process. So it starts with the animals. So the animals usually will get stunned, okay, either using mechanical, electrical, or using gas, okay. So once the animals is unconscious, then they will be tied up to the machines, okay, and then they will slit the throat, okay. The throats, then the bloods will actually start to drain out from the animal bodies, okay. So this is the process once the blood has been bleeded out, okay. So inside there's no longer have blood. As you know, that blood is actually the red blood cells is the one that carry oxygens. So without blood, it can no longer supply oxygen to the body. Okay, so once there's no more oxygens, what happens is that the cells will start to go through what we call anaerobic glycolysis. Okay, I'm going to talk about that shortly. Okay, anaerobic means without oxygen. Okay, aerobic means using oxygen. Okay, so in this case, anaerobic glycolysis is actually going through the glycolysis process. Okay, without the presence of oxygens. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. Yeah. So once bled out, okay, once bled out, what happened is that there's no longer have oxygen in there. And then this is the time where it started to convert the muscle to meat. Okay, so now it's going to in the process of conversion of muscle to meat. It starts at this moment once it has been bled out. So the skin will be removed. All right, then they will chop off the heads and split into half, and then they will go through a chamber while conversions of the muscle to meats will happen over here before the meats will be distributed out to the food outlets here. Okay, so this one is basically the biochemical pathway, okay, of ATP production. As you know from last chapter, ATP is very, very important. Okay, ATP uses to control the calcium pump so that the calcium will be stored in the cytoplasmic reticulums. Okay, and the ATP is also used for muscle contraction, where if you detach the myosin head from the myosin binding site on the actin, okay. So without ATP, then if the actin is unlocked, then the myosin head will be bound to the actins continuously. Yeah, all right. So this is normally happens while the animal is alive. Glucose will be converted to pyruvate, step 1. Over here you can see step 1, okay, through glycolysis. Pyruvate will be converted to acetyl-CoA, step 2. And then if you enter into the mitochondria, over here, yeah, step 3, step 4 is happening in the mitochondria. Step 1 and step 2 is happening in the cytoplasms of the cells. Yeah. So you have learned that during the introduction of cells. Okay, so over here happening in the cytoplasms, step 3 and step 4 will be happening inside the mitochondria. So in step 3, the acetyl-CoA will go through what we call citric acid cycle. Okay, in here then they will convert to produce a lot of NADH. Okay, what happened over here is that the NADH will go through step 4, which is the electron transport chain, where they will produce about 38, okay, in total, yeah, the whole process, they will produce about 38 ATP molecules here in every glucose molecule. This is what we call aerobic respiration, okay. So this is step 1 to step 4. In the event that there's no more oxygen, okay, so you can no longer go through from step 1 to step 4, okay. So if you start at step 1, so what is happening at step 1, you can look over here. The glucose will be converted to pyruvate in the absence of oxygens, as they need to regenerate what we call the NADH, okay. So NAD+, sorry, they need to regenerate NAD+. So what happens is that they will convert the pyruvate to lactates to regenerate the NAD+, so that this cycle, okay, or this loop will continue to produce net 2 ATP. So it's very limited ATP will be produced through this aerobic glycolysis, okay. So through aerobic glycolysis, this will be produced, yeah, very limited. Because of the production of lactate, the pH will drop, okay. The pH of the muscle will drop, yeah. So what happened is that during the conversion from muscle to meat, the pH of the muscle will drop, and this drop is very important during the conversion from muscle to meat. All right. So as this process go through, okay, as this process go through, what happens is that the ATP the glucose will exhausted, okay, will be exhausted, and the production of ATP will be stopped, okay. The production of ATP will stop. So this is basically what happened here, okay, still alive, and this one will happen after the animal has been slaughtered. Okay, looking at this glucose, yeah, the glucose is the ultimate the carbohydrates that enter into these ATP productions pathways. Of course, the starch, you can normally animals or humans, they will have starch, okay, in their diet. It can have like, for example, other type of sugars and so forth. All these, they will be broken down into glucose, and then it will enter the pathway, okay. So what happened is that during the conversion from muscle to meat, once the animal has been slaughtered, the blood circulation will be stopped. Okay, what this means, right? The blood circulation stops means that the importation of nutrients as well as the removal of the metabolites to the muscles stop as well. Then the oxygen concentration within the muscle cell will start to reduce, and it will lead to anaerobic glycolysis, okay, so which is the one that I told you about, anaerobic glycolysis. All right. So anaerobic glycolysis depend on the reserve of the glycogen in the muscle. So usually in the muscle, carbohydrate will be stored in the muscle in the form of glycogens. For plants is in the form of starch, okay. So in us as well as humans, we have a certain amount of glycogen is being stored in the muscle, yeah, for usage. So this glycogen, of course, will be exhausted after during the conversion from muscle to meat, and so which means that the ATP will be stopped as well, okay. So the glucose is converted into lactic acid with the synthesis of 2 moles of ATP, okay. So you can see there's a very big difference here. When the animal is still alive, a total of 38 ATP produced per glucose, whereas once in the anaerobic glycolysis, every glucose molecule only can convert to 2 moles of ATP. Okay, this shows that it's very limited in terms of how much energy is being produced available for muscle contractions, and also to control the calcium pump. This diagram is very useful. Okay, conversion from muscle to meat. Okay, is basically the summarize of what we have discussed. Okay, so the muscle, once the animal has been slaughtered, the blood start to circulation is stopped. Okay, very fast decrease in oxygen concentration within the muscle cells. Then they will start to cease the activity of the mitochondrial system. As I mentioned, this mitochondrial system, alright, is needed. Okay, oxygen is needed to go through the mitochondrial system. If not, it will only stop at step 1. Okay, step 2, 3, 4 over here. Okay, 2, 3, 4 over here. This happens in the mitochondria. This one is to prepare entering the mitochondria, and this one is happen in the mitochondria. So once it's being slaughtered, no more oxygen, this won't pull through, only leaving here, which is the anaerobic glycolysis. Alright, so cease of activity means cell respiration stops. Okay, there's no longer have cell respiration. Then when the what happens is that the enzymatic generation ATP is being reduced, because, as I mentioned, during the anaerobic glycolysis, every glucose molecule will only generate 2 ATP. Okay. Alright, before I go down, let's go over here. When the oxygen concentration has been reduced, redox potential, which is basically the step 4, will be decreased, because they no longer have the enough electron being pumped into the intermembranes of the mitochondria for the conversions of the ADP to ATP. Yeah. So what happens is that when that's reduced, then the anaerobic glycolysis will happen. When this happens, the lactic acid will be generated in order to regenerate NAD+. Okay. So as I mentioned, why they need to generate lactate, okay, is to regenerate the NAD+, so that the glucose can continue convert to 2-pyruvate to produce net 2 ATP. Net means in total 2 ATP to produce. Okay, if this doesn't convert, there's no longer have any NAD+, so this process will stop. Okay. Okay, so looking at here, lactase is generated. The pH of the meat, okay, will be dropped about 5.6. Yeah. Okay, this is very crucial, which is required to actually degree of protein denaturation. The drop in the pH as well is good, because it will inhibits the growth of the bacteria. Of course, the bacteria will grow, but it will reduce the momentums of the bacterial growth here, because of the acidic environment. And because of protein denaturation, they will decrease the talking about because muscle is majority actin and myosins, so these are the proteins will be denatured. Okay, as well as the enzymes in within the muscle cells, as well as the enzymes use it to generate ATP during the anaerobic glycolysis pathway, will also reduce or inhibited. Okay, inhibit means that they will sort of like kill it. Yeah. Okay, because the enzymes are proteins as well, they actually functions at a certain pH. Okay, they will function optimally at a certain pH, usually about cellular pH 7.4, okay, 7.5 and so forth. Yeah. So because of that, the ATP consumptions, okay, the ATP will be consumed during this conversion from muscle to meat as well for muscle contractions, but it's going to be very limited. Yeah. Okay, because of the limitation of ATP, the calcium pump will also not functioning well, leading to the diffusion of the calcium ions to the cytosol of the muscle fiber. Once the calcium diffuse to the muscle fiber, okay, what happens is that the log, okay, remember there's a log at the actin, okay, the log will be removed, allowing the myosin head to bind to the myosin binding site on the actin. Okay, and this binding is what we call ectomyosin. Okay, ectomyosin is formed. Because once it's really exhausted, what happens is that this binding will be forever, okay, because there's no longer have ATP to remove. And so we have explained in last week that the rigor mortis is being is happening. Yeah, rigor mortis will happens because of this. As I mentioned, once attached, okay, cannot be removed. All right, and there's no the calcium lock as well is being removed because of the presence of calciums, and there's no ATP to bind to the myosin head, so it will remain bind to the myosin binding site on the actin. Okay, and so rigor mortis happens. As I mentioned, rigor mortis is not forever. Okay, it will be removed once the meat is being degraded. Okay, so over here what happened is that the actin-myosin is formed because of the protein denaturation as well as the contractions that is happening with the limited amount of ATP. What happened is that the protein, okay, the meat will reduce, will be the proteins in there because of the protein denaturation of the myosin and actin. What happens is that the water binding capacity will be reduced. Okay, they no longer, because proteins requires proteins will bind to water, but once it's denatured, it will squeeze out the water. Okay, with the squeezing out of the water, the cell inside the cell, yeah, so the water is basically in the cell. What happens is that the myoglobins within the muscle cell will also reduce. Yeah, okay, the red color is basically the myoglobin. Hemoglobin is in our blood circulation. Myoglobin is also carrying oxygens. Is basically the myoglobin is inside the muscle cell. Yeah, the hemoglobin and myoglobin is different in terms of structure. Myoglobin in our blood has 4 sites to bind to oxygen, whereas the myoglobin, okay, only got 1, okay, 1 unit to bind to oxygen, okay, which is more than sufficient in terms inside the meat, yeah, because there are many myoglobin inside the muscle cell. Okay, so the red color reduced is due to the myoglobin leaching out together with the cell, okay, the water inside the cell, and so the water will be released as well as the soluble nutrients that is inside the cell. Okay, so this one is basically the whole process that is happening. So you can see from here basically what we call a normal meat. Okay, once the muscle has been converted to meat, so you can see the blood is slightly lack of the red color because the water has been squeezed out from the meats here. I can see from here. Okay, so this one is basically the normal process from conversion to muscle to meat. But what happened is that there are some conditions lead to certain conditions here, what we call PSE meat as well as DFD meat. Okay, let's look at this. So PSE meat is this, you can see it's very, very pale and a lot of liquid are being squeezed out. Okay, whereas the DFD meat over here is very red. Okay, but not a lot of the liquid is being squeezed out from the meats here. So either this PSE meat or the DFD meat is not is not ideal. Okay, why? I'm going to tell you later on. And what does the PSE and DFD meat? I'm going to tell you in the next few slides. So what we prefer is actually this normal meat. Okay, let's talk about PSE meat. PSE meat stands for pale, soft, and exudative here. Pale, you can see, very pale. Okay, compared to normal meat, very, very pale. Okay, soft, because all the liquid has been removed, That's why it's inside is lack of the cells, is lack of water. That's why when you press, it's very soft. Exudative stand for this liquid being squeezed out from the muscles. Yeah, okay. Okay, why this is happening, why PSE happen is because the lactic acid accumulated too much. The pH actually dropped too much below about 5.6 to 5.8. Okay, sometimes it's even lower than that. Yeah, okay. So it produced too fast and sometimes can drop below that. Okay, below 5.6. So what happened is that because of this drop in the lactic acid, that's why you lead to a production of what we call PSE meat. Yeah, PSE meat is not really how to say, is not not acceptable. Okay, it's not desirable. Okay, the reason is being, one is the appearance, secondly is that they have lost a lot of these nutrients in there. Okay, the color is lost, it's very soft. Okay, and the nutrition quality is dropped as well. Okay, why PSE is happening? It can be due to the animal has a lot of surplus carbohydrate in there. Okay, when they got a lot of surplus carbohydrates in the muscle, okay, before it's being slaughtered, what happened is that they will all this glucose will be used to convert into the lactate. Okay, this glucose will be converted to lactates. Sometimes the temperature of the muscle and the metabolic status of the animal prior to slaughter will also affect. Yeah. Another condition is that when the animal is being stressed too much prior to slaughter as well. If they are being stressed too much, what happens is that they will produce lactic acid in their blood. Okay, and this will also lead to reduction of the pH too much and causes the PSE meat. Okay, so this is not desirable. Yeah. The second one, okay, is what we call DFD meat. DFD stands for dark, firm, and dry. Okay, so if you look back to here, you can see that it's very, very dark compared to the normal meats. Okay, because of excess myoglobin in the muscle cell. Okay, because these all this myoglobin is still inside the cell because it's not being leaked out. Okay, from the muscle cells. Firm is because inside full of liquid. That's why it's when you press it's firm. Okay, dry is not the meat that is dry, it's because the surrounding is dry, because there is no liquid being pressed out from the muscle. So DFD, you may say that, oh, it's good, but it's actually not good because the pH remain high. Because of the pH remain high, it actually has a certain risk, okay, of microbial growth. Okay, why this DFD is happening, right? It could be due to the carbohydrate in the animal is being exhausted before slaughter. So when there's no glucose, it cannot be converted to lactates. Okay, and so the pH will remain high. So you can see from here, in order to avoid PSE or DFD, the condition of the animal prior to slaughter is very important. You cannot stress too much, cannot have too much carbohydrates, okay, cannot have too little carbohydrate as well in the before they are being slaughtered. So all this must be taken into consideration, okay, to produce a normal meat. Okay, so I will end here for the conversion from muscle to meat. So make sure that you try the mini quiz that I have prepared to get yourself familiar with the process of conversion from muscle to meat. Okay, and please make sure that you indicate in the Padlets. Okay, if you got question, please ask. If you got no question, please also indicate no question in the Padlet, yeah, for attendance taking. Okay, thank you so much.